So I really, really want to start by hearing the story of how you started your business at 13 years old. So tell us all the things. Tell us the
Okay.
story.
Well, before we get into it, I just want to say congratulations because I have not done an interview in so long. This is you really accomplished a feat here because I have not done an interview in years, and I can't believe that I'm sitting here talking to you right now. Even though you're my co-founder, it feels so weird to be on an
I
interview.
got you. I got Tori.
So I guess the backstory would be that my entire life I've been interested in entrepreneurship. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. My mom owned multiple businesses. She started a construction company with my stepdad, like later on. My uncle owned businesses. My grandma had a flea market. Like everyone in my family had some kind of business. And so it was just kind of what I grew up knowing. And I literally remember by the time I was 4 years old, I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur when I grew up. And like I would articulate it like just like that. It wasn't like, oh, I want to start a business or I want to have a boutique or I want to have an accounting firm like my mom. It was like, no, I want to be an entrepreneur when I grow up. And like from the time I was 4 years old, I went around telling everyone that, like anyone that would listen to me. And so when I was 4 years old, I started my first business. My mom helped me start a candy stand at my grandma's flea market. And so we went to like Costco and got all the wholesale candy, and she helped me make business cards and set up my booth. And I was so young that I didn't even know how to count change. And I literally just like gave a quarter to everyone that would buy something from. Thank you so much for your business. Here's a quarter. So that was kind of my very humble beginning. And then all throughout elementary and middle school, like I was always kind of doing some kind of hustle. I remember at one point in elementary school, like I started a gossip magazine, and I would allow people to submit like their gossip for $1, and then I would publish it in the magazine, and then I would sell all the article or all the issues for $1. So that was kind of a hustle for a while, but my teachers obviously very quickly caught on. It caused a lot of drama, and I got shut down pretty quickly. And then like in middle school, I started like getting people to pay me to like have my mom like bring them Subway for lunch. And then like my freshman year in high school, like everyone would always like get these chocolate chip cookies from the cafeteria, but like they were horrible, and like they were always like half baked, and like they tasted disgusting. And I loved baking, so I was like, I'm gonna make chocolate chip cookies and bring them to school. And then like I remember the cafeteria ladies like retaliated against me and like told on me to the principal because like everyone was buying my cookies instead of theirs, and like it became like a really big like rival. And so fast forward to my freshman year of high school, I was already getting in trouble for my business pursuits a lot. And I was also a year ahead in school. So that was kind of the dynamic that contributed to this. I was 13 years old. I was a freshman in high school. And most of the kids in my grade were 15, 16 years old. And so all those kids that were in my grade were going out and like getting their first jobs or starting to mow lawns or doing things to make money. And it kind of became a thing where like nobody had time to like hang out with me because they were like going on job interviews or going to their job or like doing the things they were doing to make money. And so I kind of got bored really quickly, and I approached my mom and I was like, okay, it's time to start my first business. And she was like,
Wow.
okay, what do you want to start? And I said, I think I'm going to start like a jewelry boutique. I really liked like fashion jewelry at the time. This was like the early 2010s. So like big, like gaudy, like fashion jewelry was very fashionable at the time. And so she taught me how to like contact manufacturers in China and order samples. And I started ordering samples, and I would take them to school and kind of show them off and get feedback from my friends about what they liked or what they didn't like. And during this time of me kind of doing some market research and market testing, my mom one day came home from a yard sale. She was out like yard sailing with a friend or something. I can't remember the exact circumstances, but she found this book at a yard sale I think it's called The Mary Kay Way. And basically, it was a biography about Mary Kay Ash and how she started Mary Kay. And I had been a lifelong reader. I loved reading, I loved learning, I loved business books, I loved like inspirational books of like real people, real stories. So like this was right up my alley. And I read this book, and I remember reading it 3 times in one day. And the first time I was just absolutely in awe of Mary Kay's story and how she built this company against all odds in the 1960s, like when it wasn't culturally appropriate or culturally acceptable for like women to work, let alone women have businesses. And she kind of opened the floodgates for women to become like the master of their own fate and to forge their own path and to make their own money and to become independent. And that was so taboo at the time. And so I was really inspired by it. And the second time I went through, and I remember just taking like my highlighters and my little post-it notes and kind of making notes of all the things that I thought were really interesting or intriguing or unique about her story. And by the third time that I went through the book, I was annotating and basically making my own business plan, modeling it after what Mary Kay did with her business. And so by that third time of reading that book, I knew that I wanted to start a direct selling company for girls my age. It hadn't existed yet. You couldn't become a Stella & Dot rep or a Mary Kay rep or an Avon rep unless you were 18. And me as a 13-year-old girl that wanted to start a business, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, we should be allowed to start businesses if we want to. Why isn't this available to us? And of course, being a 13-year-old girl, I didn't realize kind of like all of the legal obstacles that were in the way of that at the time. But I was determined to find a way to make it happen. And, you know, there's that saying of like, ignorance is bliss. And I think if it weren't for the ignorance that I had and the naivete that I had as a 13-year-old girl, just wanting to create this thing because it was something that I wanted for myself and it was something that I wanted for my friends, like I would have never been able to bring it to fruition. But so I took the book down to my mom's office and I said to her, I said, Mom, I said, I want to start the next Mary Kay. And she said, oh, you want to become a Mary Kay rep? That's so cute. Like, of course we can do that. And I was like, no, Mom, I want to start the next Mary Kay. Like, I want to have my own Mary Kay. And I just remember she looked at me and she was like, I have no idea how to do that. like, I don't know how to help you with this. And I was like, that's okay. I was like, I think I can figure it out. And she was like, I think you can too. And she was like, start researching. And that's what I did. I started researching. I did go sign up to be a Mary Kay rep. I just signed up to go be an Avon rep. I signed up for all these companies and decided to kind of reverse engineer it, right? Because I mean, the internet existed, social media was a thing, but this information wasn't necessarily like out there and readily available to me. So the only way that I felt that I could really learn how to create one of these companies was to experience it myself and figure out how to do it from there. And so by the time I was 14, Utoria had launched, and basically it was the first direct selling company in the United States to allow girls under the age of 18 to become representatives and sell our products. And so these girls would sign up to become what we called Utoria girls. We would teach them about entrepreneurship. We would teach them about what it meant to be an entrepreneur, how to start their business. We had a huge collection of products for them to choose from. They would get to choose the products that they were interested in, all of which we curated from small businesses around the country. They would get to make their own catalog and decorate their own catalog to kind of fit their personality and this unique brand that they were creating. And then we would have all these training sessions. We would meet up once a week in a Panera or Starbucks, and I would literally train them how to sell these products, how to be a good salesperson, how to market these products, how to educate people on the features so that they would see the value in the products. And so they were learning all these new skills. And it was really such a cool experience. And very quickly after that, I started gaining like national media attention. And I gained the attention of some pretty prestigious mentors. And from there, it kind of just took a life of its own, I think.
Okay, oh my gosh. So there are some things we have to talk about. So first of all, I want to ask you because I know personally I was really similar when I was young. I decided at a super, super young age, I was like, I'm going to be massively successful. And I had no idea what that was going to look like, but I made that decision and I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, okay, I'm going to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like you said kind of like that childish like naiveness about it and like so I personally though when I was going through middle school and high school I had these big goals and these big dreams so was very ambitious like you,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of us are super ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
But me, like, I faced all of this fear, like massive existential fear that, oh, I'm not good enough for this, or I don't actually know how to make this happen. But most importantly, like, oh, what if this never works out for me?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of want to know how in the world you just, I guess, were so confident in yourself from the get-go that you could make this happen. Like, where did that confidence come from? Was it natural? Did you ever face any sort of fear or self-doubt whatsoever when you were telling yourself, I'm going to start this business?
I think this is a really interesting part of the story to talk about, and it's something that I don't talk about very often because I haven't done interviews in so many years. And at one point, I did have like a pretty public persona, and I was doing interviews all the time, and I was doing press all the time, and um, I was just out there, right? Like I had this public image, and the experience of it was actually pretty traumatic for me because I would say in the beginning, when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, the confidence did come somewhat naturally to me, only because I was like, this is something that is really important to me. It's something that I think will be important to other people. It's something that I felt would change the world because we were, for the first time, I mean, entrepreneurship is so much more part of the conversation now than it was 10 years ago. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was starting to become a part of the conversation, but it wasn't like very, at least as mainstream as it is now. And so we were doing this really innovative thing of making entrepreneurship accessible to teenage girls and teaching teenage girls about entrepreneurship in an interactive, hands-on way, right? So the original confidence just came from that. It wasn't that I particularly felt confident myself. It was more so that I felt so confident in what we were doing. And I felt that it was of such great importance that I was willing to put myself out there. And like, of course, in the beginning, like, I wasn't super graceful. I was a 13-year-old girl. I was going through all of these changes that we all go through, and, going through the high school experience and all of the developmental changes that come with that, like even just emotionally. But I was so determined and was so passionate about the work that we were doing that I just was constantly practicing my craft. I was practicing getting more confident, practicing getting more graceful, practicing, my interviewing skills and things like that. Um, but the thing that people didn't see was that as I got older, behind the scenes, it became really toxic for a teenage girl, if that makes sense. And so I would say that my confidence started waning as I was 15, 16, 17, kind of towards the end of my tenure with Utoria, because I was facing all these external pressures, right? Like I remember like getting like hateful comments on Facebook, people tweeting me and being like, who the fuck does this girl think she is? Um, Even mentors that like I was so close with and I trusted, and they were my elders, right? Like they were older than me. These weren't peers. These were grown adults that I thought had my best interest at heart. And how critical people became of me was so hard. And I would say that that's really when I started losing my confidence. And ultimately, that's why I stopped pursuing Utoria. Like the pressure of it had just become too much. And I had become so insecure and so unconfident with myself that I just didn't feel like I could go on anymore. Um, so that was really hard. But I would say the initial confidence really came from not me as a person, but just because I felt that what I was trying to build and what we were trying to accomplish was just of such great importance that I just had to do it.
Right. And so how did you regain your confidence? What process did you go through as far as um, building your next business and continuing with entrepreneurship?
You know, I think I was lost for many years, to be honest. And I think I'm still in the process of rediscovering myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, the experience of creating Utoria, building Utoria, and going through the experience that I went through with everything that came along with that um, was a very strange experience for a teenager to go through. It was not your normal high school experience, right? And so a lot of times, like, I'll hear stories of like child stars, child actors, those kinds of things. And the things they talk about, like with the pressures of being famous as a child, while I was nowhere near famous by any means, like I can really relate to their stories and their experiences because of what I went through. And I would say it's an ever evolving process. Like I'm still trying to regain my confidence. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, like I haven't done an interview in years, and there's a reason why. I was ghost on social media for years, and there's a reason why. It was I didn't want the attention anymore. I didn't want to be in the spotlight. I had a lot of negative emotions and negative experiences associated with that, and it didn't feel safe for me anymore. Um, and I would say even when I started Copilot, which was my marketing agency that I started in 2017, at that point I was 20 years old, and that was kind of the business that I started after I had taken a break from Utoria. And even then, like I hadn't regained my confidence, like at all. It was something that I more so did out of necessity. Like I needed an income, I needed to make a living, I needed to be able to support myself as an adult. But I remember like dreading Zoom calls. I remember making excuses to never be like on camera on a Zoom call. I felt so insecure with myself, with my appearance, how I was showing up physically. I had completely isolated myself in real life as well. It wasn't like I was hiding virtually, but then I like was doing things in real life. Like I kind of went into what I call my hermit phase. And I still find myself retreating back into that, like when I go through hard experiences where I isolate, I hide, I don't leave the house, I don't talk to people, I won't respond to texts for weeks. And I think maybe people that know me or people who care about me think that that's like a little like weird maybe, or like I wonder why she isn't responding, or I wonder what's going on, or maybe she's busy. But it's just like it's this coping mechanism that I developed from those experiences as a teenager where I just want to hide from the world. And so during that time that I started my second business, I mean, I was so insecure and so unconfident that like I didn't have friends, I didn't go out. The only person that I really ever interacted with was my now ex-boyfriend who I had lived with at the time. And that was just kind of my circle. And like I remember even like my mom or like my brother would be like, let's go out to dinner, let's go to this event, or I want to take you to this conference. And I would like shut down any of those things. Like, I did not want to go to a conference. I did not want to go to an event. I did not want to go to a business networking event. Like, I basically didn't want anyone to know that I existed. Like, I just wanted complete anonymity. Like, that was the only thing that I wanted at the time. So yeah, so I guess that's a really long answer to say that, like, it's something that I'm still working on and I'm still trying to regain, and like, it's something that I have to really work really hard at, like, every single day.